Okay, so basically you came here to Programming Noob to learn programming, obviously. I just wanted to give a little bit of background on who I am. I have a bachelor's degree in information technology, and I've had 3 years worth of experience in programming with Visual Basic and C Sharp. So I can tell you right away that the stuff that I've learned over the past 3 years is stuff that's being applied to real businesses. So you might want to just remember a lot of the little things that I mentioned, like comments. Commenting is a must when you're creating an application for a company, especially if they're, starting to grow their department in programming or software development, because a new software developer will come in and be like, "Well, what are you doing here?" Well, if you had comments, you don't have to really explain it. They can just read it and be like, "Oh, okay," and read through the code. If they're good at what they do, that they wouldn't need to ask you or look at comments. But comments are nice as just a nice way. But anyways, a lot of what's gonna be taught should be applicable to the world today. Okay, well, welcome to Programming Noob. Um, Basically, you're going to be learning programming with C Sharp. The first thing that we're going to be doing is opening up Microsoft Visual Studio. Then we're going to create a console application, instantiate variables, add the two variables, and output the answers from the variables. Um, and then we're going to show how to view that answer. So let's get started. I have Windows 8 here, so it's going to be a little bit different for you, but you'd want to go into Start menu if you have Windows 7 or XP, go to Programs, and go to Microsoft Visual Studio. I'd expect you guys to know the basics of this. If you don't, search on YouTube for tutorials for that. So let me open up Visual Studio. Okay, so it's up now. So the first thing I'm going to do is say New Project. You can click on this link here, or you can go to File, New Project. Let me remind you, this is Visual Studio 2013. It's going to be, depending on what you guys have, you guys might have an older version. It's very similar, though, to all the other Visual Studios. You just have to find the right combination is all. So, alright, so I'm going to assume you have Visual Studio 2013. You don't need premium version. If you have Express, that's okay too. It just means it's kind of a stripped down version. So I'm going to do File, New Project. Okay, so this dialog opens up. It says Console Application. Um, it defaults to Visual C Sharp automatically for me because I selected that. You can do whatever you want in terms, but we're going to be learning C Sharp, so obviously you want that. Uh, you can also go to other languages, and there's several other languages around here that you can learn as well, but we're doing this. So I'm going to go with Tutorial 1 as my first project for a console application, and I click OK. Give it a minute. Okay, so this is the first screen you see when you create a console application. Essentially, you have properties, references, app config, program.cs, and your solution. Really, the only thing you need to know for right now is that you're going to be doing all your programming over here to the left side in between these curly braces, which is static void main string args, brackets, and then args. So inside these curly braces, this is where all your code is going to run. So the first thing we want to do is instantiate a variable. To do this, I'm just going to go with an integer. There's several other variable types. There's floats, there's strings, there's doubles, all sorts. But we're going to go with a very basic object, and it's an int, which is integer, which stands for integer. Okay, and I'm going to call this number 1. Okay, now what I did there is camel casing. I'm not sure if you're comfortable with that or if you even heard of it. Camel casing basically means is um, after the first word, any other words after that for variables will be capitalized. But there's several people who might not do that. They might delete that and put just regular 1. That's fine too. Or you can do underscore 1. Just remember that when you do these changes, that's permanent for right now until you can change it back to whatever you want. So I'm going to stick with the camel casing because I'm comfortable with that. Okay, so we have number 1, and let's do another number. So int number 2. Okay, so we got 2 variables. They're not being used right now, and actually these green squigglies means the variable number 1 is declared but never used. So what do we want to do? Well, we can easily do something where we can set them to a number. So let's say number 1, and I love Visual Studio because of their IDE. It actually starts typing the actual variable name there for you, and it's great because then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see that variable. So we're going to set number 1 to actual 1, okay? And then we're going to do the same thing for number 2. Number 2, let's set it to, well, 2. Why not? So I think everyone has done basic math, or most people have. 1 plus 2 equals 3. So how do we actually put that into another variable, let's say? Okay. Well, let's declare one more variable, another int, and do number 3. Okay? And then let's do number 3. Oh, look at that. See, it pops up for you. And if you select it with your up and down arrows, you can actually press then tab and it autofills for you. If you get more comfortable with the IDE, it's a lot easier and it saves you a bunch of time. So number 3 equals, then let's do number 1 plus number 2. Okay, so now we will say, now this will say 1 plus 2, and that's going to be held in number 3 variable. Okay, so how do we output this? Well, since this is a console application, it's going to be outputted in a DOS-like environment or a DOS-like application. So what we're going to do is do console. That's the name of the application, so kind of surprising. And then we're going to do write line. Okay? Then we're going to say, let's write number 3 here. Okay? So, if we did everything right, they should output 3 as a number. Okay? So let me click start here and see what happens. Oh, that was real quick, but I guarantee you it's up there. Let me show you a different way of executing. There's 2 ways to do this so that that screen doesn't just go away real quick. First thing is you can click on debug and start without debugging. Then you see here there's 3 there and it says press any key to continue. As soon as you press a key, the window will disappear. See? The other way to do this is doing console read key. So when we do this, basically it'll first write the line and then it's going to wait for an actual key input, okay? Basically any key on your keyboard. So let's try this again and hit start. Okay, now let's hit F and it disappears. Yay! So that's your first little program. Let me show you some other things. You can also change these variable, what number the variable holds. So let's do 5. Let's do I don't know, 350. Okay, so we should get 355 back. So press start. 355. Wow. So it's kind of like a small addition calculator right now. It's not a big deal. Now, one other thing you might want to do is then remember to use comments. Comments for a forward slash are two forward slashes, okay? And then you can write anything. So instantiate variables. Okay, so you're instantiating the variables right there, and it's really easy to know. And then you can say setting the variables. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. So this is really it. I would have gone with the hello world type stuff, but there's so much of that out there that I wanted to go with beginning with something new and unique. And this may not be new or unique to you guys, but it's a little bit different. Hopefully, you guys learned something, and thank you. That's all for now.